We're so excited to be here.
So excited that we're on day 5 of the challenge.
Woohoo!
Can't wait to check in with all of you about how the challenge went.
Yes, we are really excited to do that.
I know the challenge was really transformative for me, and to do these exercises and to work on the root is always really grounding and helpful I see it cascade into my work with clients and into my personal work and into my practices where I'm attracting abundance and setting goals for the future. It really helped to lay a strong foundation for that for me.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we could just get right into what we planned for today.
Yeah, I think that's great.
And for those of us joining a little bit later, usually you can catch up. Webinar Jam will delay it a little bit. You can catch up. Or if you are watching this on a replay, feel free to engage with this at a time that's convenient for you when you're not operating heavy machinery.
Because we're going to be doing a meditation first.
Right.
That's the main reason.
We're going to ground in, right? We're going to drive that lesson home, grounding in right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Just a few reminders before we start. With webinars, you want to make sure that you have anything else that could be draining your Wi-Fi or your bandwidth turned off. No distractions. If the screen appears to stall or go static, or for whatever reason there's an issue with it, if you refresh the page, it should come right back. It may come back a little bit delayed. Just stick with it. You will catch up. Okay? All right. So we were thinking that perhaps we would start with a singing bowl meditation. And what we're going to do is we're going to ground into our root, and we're going to ask a couple of questions about bringing in our abundance. So first, we're going to ask, what are my next steps? We're going to call in a guide, and we're going to ask, what are my next steps? And then the second question will be a clarifying question to give us the more concrete material world steps. What's the very next thing I need to do? And we're going to ask for clarification. All right. So we're going to start with grounding in. So you want to find a comfortable spot, someplace where you won't be disturbed. And close your eyes, focusing in on the breath, turning your attention inward. Just giving your spirit, your soul permission to more fully inhabit your sacred temple. Allow yourself to feel the seat beneath your bottom or against your back, your feet firmly against the floor. And I invite you to just let the sound sink into your awareness, into your senses. Drawing your energy down the length of your torso. Like a stone through water, letting it glide down to become seated and rooted in your root chakra. Becoming attuned to the song. And I'm going to ask you to call in a guide or a spirit animal or some kind of assistance from source, from the universe, whatever feels comfortable for you. And whatever appears, just embrace it without interpretation. And you're going to ask this presence, what is my next step in calling in abundance? And just remain wide open to receiving whatever is communicated to you, however that is communicated to you. Might be a thought or an intuition, image or a memory, or simply a sensation in your body. Just take it in, breathe it in, let it sink into your cells, into your bloodstream, into your bones, into your body knowledge. And we're going to ask one more clarifying question. If there's something that you need clarity on from that first response, ask it now. And breathe that in too. Let it sink into your unconscious wisdom without judgment, without interpretation. Breathe that in. And just know that through synchronicities in the environment, your creativity, imagination, intuition, that when the time is right, this wisdom that you have just taken into your body, into your unconscious awareness, and your conscious witnessing, will rise into your wakeful knowing when the time is right, when it is most necessary. And you will know what to do. And so we are going to release that practice, drawing our attention back into the present moment. And I'm going to count backwards from 5 to 1. And when we reach 1, you may open your eyes. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Thank you, Brianna.
You're welcome.
What a good way to end the challenge. Yeah. Grounding in and just reconnecting to that abundance and the next steps forward.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I would encourage you to write down what came up for you, or you could draw it, but in some way externalize whatever that internal experience was, because we're talking about financial abundance, which is really making manifest externally, the quality of the energy that we hold inside and towards ourselves. So we are looking to bring that into the outer realm, right? Into the material realm. We want there to be that relationship. And I'd like you to write that down, because we want to come back to that a little bit later in the webinar. But at this point, we wanted to talk a little bit about what brought us to this work in the first place, and then maybe check in with you guys, find out how the challenge went for you this week, and then transition a little bit into telling you more about our program, an online live masterclass, Healing Through the Chakras, and what you might expect in that kind of a program. So would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Brianna. Mm-hmm. So what brought me to this work? Well, that's a whole long story, and I wrote a whole book about it. But really the gist of it is that I realized that I had spent most of my adult life seeking to find ways to reconnect with my power and reconnect with pieces of myself that I had disconnected from, which I didn't really understand that that's exactly what I was looking for as I was on this pilgrimage to find my power and locate pieces of my lost soul. But I had been through a series of traumas in my childhood life and in my adult life, trauma with my family, abuse that carried into my adulthood and the relationships that I formed. And I ended up getting married when I was 24 years old to someone who represented a lot of fantasy for me that felt like an escape from my family and from that reality. And it turned out that person was a sociopath and was not presenting themselves in an honest way. But I got hooked into that because I was seeking something to complete me, something to be the magic pill, to make me feel better, more complete, more whole, accepted, and to love myself. And after this person physically left me and also took all of my money, as he did, I was in this really deep space of devastation, of feeling like I had lost everything and feeling like I couldn't even go back to my roots, my family, because without really knowing it, I realized that because I had lost all these pieces of my power, my brightness, my spirit, my soul, that if I went back to my family who had caused me to lose all of these pieces of my power, my light, my spirit, and my soul, I just felt like there was no going back. And instead, I did some work as a professional dominatrix to stay in the city, understood a little bit more about how trauma affects others, and was able to hold the space of a container for other people's shadows. And I had gone through school to become a creative arts therapist. I went through psychology training. I did movement therapy training when I was at school at Pratt for creative arts therapies, and was trying to find all these ways to get my power back through psychology, using the mind, using the body, but there was still something missing. And after I was going through this search and really praying for something to come and to support me, for some external force or something inside of me to be reborn, I began to stumble upon the teaching of shamanism, the world's oldest form of spiritual practice and belief system, that we're all connected and that our spirits have energy, and that the spirits of the elements and of animals and plants and others, we all have spirits, and that we're all connected, and that if trauma happens, that part of the spirit can become stuck, can actually separate from the person. In psychology, we call this dissociation, but in shamanism, we call this soul loss. And I realized that that was what was happening for my entire life, of all of these traumas that had happened. And as I began to study shamanism, I began to get my power back. And through the practice of soul retrieval, bridging that together with psychology, I began to realize that there is more to what happens when there's a trauma. Not only do we lose a part of our power because of, a difficult situation with our family when we're growing up, or maybe it's a fight that we've had with a partner or a friend, and that parts of our soul get stuck and leave us. And this can also happen in the chakras, right? We can feel like someone takes our power, our ability to speak our truth, or we can feel like someone makes it unsafe for us to exist, to live, or that we're not worthy enough of attracting financial abundance or being creative or speaking our truth. And those are just some examples of how it can settle in the throat chakra or in the root chakra, and affect the way that we express ourselves and move in the world. And something that I found really interesting as I began to go even deeper into these shamanic studies is that not only do we lose our power, but then other energies and mistruths get stuck in those chakras, in the spaces that we physically lose our energy. That creates an opening or a vortex for jealousy, anger, self-loathing, for other people's stuff to get picked up and go in there. So we can be clearing out our root chakra and find that some of the old money myths that we have about not being worthy, or that there's a scarcity mentality, that wasn't actually ours. We were never born with that, but our parents had a mentality of that. They get stuck into our root. So it begins this process of these clogged energies get stuck in the chakras. And our, the way to clear this stuff out is to actually go through the chakras and to do a clearing, and then call back your power, to activate those chakras so that your power comes back and you're able to operate fully. Because again, all the chakras, they're all connected. So it's not just about healing the root, it's also about healing the third eye, so that we can vision the ways that we want to bring in our abundance, and vision the ways and trust ourselves, bringing in the heart, so that we can be passionate about those steps that we take to call in financial abundance, those creative projects that we're doing that we love, to bring our heart energy into that. So I realized that you can't really do this clearing work unless you're going into the chakras and seeing what's there. And you can't just get your power back until you clear out what's not belonging, that's taking up that residence. So this work has been really inspiring, and I'm so excited to be working with Brianna, because she also sees the importance of working with the chakras and how our energy gets stuck. So with that, I'd love to hear how you got into learning about the chakras and your story of your work.
Sure. So my story probably starts with a bit of what I call a Black moment, or let's say like a compelling story about really my soul being split wide open and having to find grace on the other side of that. So I would say that moment was probably in 2015, but to really understand it in its context, I'm going to take it back just a little bit, where around ages 4 or 5, my parents got divorced and they moved to different states. And so much of my childhood was spent moving back and forth between state lines. Additionally, both of my parents were frequently living below the poverty line or on unemployment. So in them, I really had a model of hard work and determination, but just constant struggle, right? And so that really instilled in me a motivation to become a high achiever, because I really wanted to better my circumstances. I wanted to make them proud of me. And, my mantra was, don't repeat the past. This is not going to be me. I'm not going to be my mom struggling, as a single mom and on welfare, and I'm not going to be unemployed, and, all of these things. And, it was really tough. Like some nights, my mother could cook the hardest recipe out of the Silver Pellet cookbook when we had money. And when we didn't have money, it was pancakes and cornflakes for dinner. My dad's house, we had what were called fend nights, which basically meant fend for yourself. So it was rough. But in high school, I felt like, if I excel in my academics, if I throw myself into these things, then that will get me to the next level, whatever that is. And usually I would throw myself into things that were about helping the underdog. So for example, my senior year, I started the Social Justice Club, and I got really enamored with the Milwaukee campaign to ban landmines. And I wrote a curriculum, and I went around to all the social studies classes, and I taught the whole high school about the Milwaukee campaign to ban landmines. And I raised enough lunch money to clear a minefield in Cambodia. So that was like, even at a young age, like, how do you manifest that passion and, bring that into real world results, right? So I was always someone willing to go that extra mile. Fast forward, to my luxurious Manhattan life that I had crafted for myself. I'd gotten my master's degree. I was working. I was in directorial jobs right out of graduate school. I was 23 when I was in a director's position already. And I had a doctor for a husband. I had a beautiful son. I was living in a luxury building in Midtown West. And I would spend my days sobbing in overpriced gyms on a Thighmaster. Why am I so miserable? Like, so unhappy, total dark night of the soul, disconnected from who I was. I lost touch with my creativity. I'd lost touch with what it really was that was going to make me happy. And it was none of what I had. It was none of it. So I just got a divorce. After several panic attacks, I got a divorce and ended up, I refused spousal support. So I just ripped away like my last safety net and ended up in this ratty old apartment where there was always the threat of the ceiling falling in. And it did, in fact, twice, once on me while I was in the shower. And let me tell you, the sewage water that comes through when you are naked in the shower is no joke.
Oh, no.
All right. And one morning I woke up with like a mouse literally chewing the flesh between my thumb and my forefinger. It was not pretty. So, and the final straw for me, like when I really felt like I was hitting an all new low was when I was assaulted in my building carrying groceries with my son next to me. And that was really awful. And I thought that was as bad as it could get, but then the bottom really fell out. And my mom was diagnosed with cancer. My father had a second heart attack and was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's disease. My brother was diagnosed with MS. I lost my job due to funding cuts. And then the lover, the partner that I had at that time was just so desperately, madly in love with this person, wanted so much to please him and to keep him. He just could not prioritize me and was unfaithful. And ultimately, when he left, it was like my heart was ripped open. And then to top it off, I found out that I miscarried without knowing I had been pregnant. That was how I found out, was terrible cramping and all of that. So it was one of the hardest times of my life. It was just this coalescence of all these things. And it was like, I can either contract into a victimized identity right now, or I can try to find the grace on the other side of that. Like, this is going to be my story, or I can make a choice about what I want my story to be. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't willing to let that be my story. So I ended up going into doing training in Reiki, and I connected with a spiritual abundance coach. And this is kind of the funny, quirky story about how Kristen and I came to work together, which was I met with this coach, and she told me, I think I put this in the challenge emails, but she told me that you can't think of money. You have to think of money as energy, right? You can't think of it as this paper form that's outside of you that you have no control over. You have to think of it like energy. And I had gone to see her about finances, but of course my love life came up. And, we're talking about felt security and attachment in the root, like love life, finances, your foundation, what makes you feel secure, it's all connected. And that was basically what she told me, was that you have to let that go. You have to retrieve the lost parts of your soul that you allowed to walk off with this partner, right? Or whatever that partner represented to you. And to start to think about how to shift that energy, because I was preoccupied. I was telling myself, oh, I'm doing all these things to try to better myself. But underneath that was still the hamster wheel. I'm not good enough. Why did he leave me? If he loved me, he would have stayed. I must be unlovable. Like, that's still running on repeat in the back of my head. And so that's what I was giving attention to. And so that's what it was immaterial. I wasn't supposed to have that life. That projection wasn't supposed to happen for me. And because I was focusing on it, that was what I had, the immaterial. I was poor, So I ended up, she gives me a link and she's like, you should check out this shaman. She talks about soul retrieval. And I was like, okay, I'll check it out. And I clicked on the link and I was like, what? It was Kristen giving a demonstration on soul journeying and soul retrieval. And I was like, hello, Kristen was my very first intern when I was out of graduate school. And I was like, I know her. So I contacted her. We got in touch. We shared our Black moments. There was so much that we had in common.
So much.
That had cycled back around in a decade. It'd been like a decade. Mm-hmm. And we found ourselves also in the same place where we were stepping into our power. Like, we were just like, hey, like we've discovered this thing about energy and about, how things work and where we are in life with that, what our intersections are with that. And we came together to develop the course that we're going to tell you a little bit about today. But that's more or less, my story, my path to finding my way here, and also reconnecting with Kristen and finding this work to be so substantial. And I will, to bring this into concrete, I'll share with you, that was in 2015. Now it's August 2017. And I've been able to mark 4 things off my bucket list. So first thing, I had my very first book published, and I'm now under a contract for a second one. Second thing, I got an amazing studio, which I think I shared a video about that on the Facebook group. I was doing sessions out of a massage room, which was wonderful. It was great, but it was chaotic. I had to sit down and clean up after every single session. And I found this studio, and through another twist of fate, which we'll talk about at another time, and through an allowance to the universe, I got that studio. So, published author, working out of an amazing artist studio. I moved into a fabulous apartment on the Upper East Side, so I'm not worried about the ceiling falling in anymore. And I also started an online school. And the online school, I will tell you, now allows me to bring in between $2,000 and $5,000 of additional income per month. So that is, well, it's a lot of work initially, but over time, that's going to become passive income. So what I want, and that takes work, and part of my capacity to get there has been through activating the chakras, being able to work with the manifesting current and the liberating current and deal with what comes up, while at the same time cleansing the thought processes, right? At the same time, creating space around those limiting beliefs that we have, that soul loss, right? The split off parts, whatever language you want to use, right? But being able to see the limitless possibilities that really exist for you, and then to create a system in which that energy can be funneled in and take the form of money, for example. Right. And part of what we've done in this challenge, particularly with the money maps, which I love that exercise, is giving money meaning. Right. When we do affirmations and we do these guided meditations and we're asking for guidance, part of that question is framing it. If it is for the greatest good of all, in alignment with my highest purpose, right? Because that's true abundance. Like there's a consciousness which is the ego consciousness. That's all about our limiting beliefs. This idea that we have to work for the man and we have to work hard for our money, right? So that's a scarcity attitude. And there's a way to make money in there, but it's usually scraping and clawing, and it involves a lot of hard work, and usually it's at the expense of something or someone else, right? And we're told that's the only way to do it. And it's not the only way to do it. There's a more fluid way to go about it. And that's really what the work that Kristen and I have put together, the content that we've put together, the kind of work that we want to share with you, it doesn't feel like work.
It doesn't feel like work. It feels like play, and it's expansive, and it begins to work kind of like magic.
Yes.
Right. As you work through the layers of what's blocking your chakras, and it doesn't just go for the root and money, although that's what we've been exploring,
right? But
it goes for other parts of our power. And why did we put this together? We put this together to make it fun and easy because no one else is doing it this way. Of course, there's a lot of traditions that talk about the chakras. They talk about moving through and opening and closing those, but none of them really go through and clear out the old stories and then activate them using affirmations that the universe or spirit or, your guides give to you, giving you the guidance and the tools to go through and understand more about what's going on in those playing fields, and then draw your power back to you so that you can really activate and begin manifesting through each of the chakras. And I can say that as we've been the guinea pigs for this program, we've been doing it ourselves. It's been amazing to see how the universe and the outer world begins to react to what's happening, at least in my own, I can speak only from my personal experience, but my own inner world. I remember doing work, activating my solar plexus, my power chakra. And as I was doing one of the meditations for that, my ex-husband, who I haven't talked to for years, reached out to me like, "Are you okay? Has something happened?" Just because I literally cleared out another layer of that relationship, and to see how people begin to feel what's happening. I remember when we were doing the root chakra before the challenge, we were going through the chakras. I had a part of my root, literally a soul part of my root, walk back into my root chakra. And after that, I felt so grounded. I've always considered myself pretty grounded, but at the same time, I've been kind of like heady and out here. It makes me really good at doing the spiritual work that I do, but not to ground it into reality and really create that solid foundation. And once I worked on the root chakra, I literally had all of my clients and my friends saying, "You're completely different. You feel so grounded." And just the feedback I was getting from other people around me was really amazing. And I've just felt that sense of groundedness and power permeate everything that I do. And I feel like, okay, yeah, I'm really reliable now, and I'm able to solidly support myself no matter what goes on in my life. It creates a new playing field for me to work from. And that's just working through a couple of the different chakras. But when you start to work through all of them subsequently, because we build through each of the chakra systems, you see how there's an interplay between the chakras, and opportunities begin to open up for you outside of you. Attraction of new people who are empowering, new relationships. New people have come into my life, that reflect that energy of this new heart energy that I have. New visions have come because there's been more clarity. Even the way that my guides talk to me is amplified in a way that feels really good. Too much. It's just perfect for where I'm at. And so when we begin to work on those chakras and to clear out all of those things, it really is magic.
Yeah.
Things just begin to attract to us like magic because we're creating magic inside of ourselves and clearing out the stuff that's blocking the magic.
Yeah. I just, as an aside, you keep saying the word magic, and I would like to share that I do this work actually with my son sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I did do a root singing bowl meditation with him. And I was like, imagine yourself that red ball of light, just full of love and safety and holding you, and, feel yourself held by the universe. And I was like, can you see it? Can you feel it? And he's like, it's magic. And I said, oh, that's great. And then after the meditation, he looks up at me, these wise old eyes. I swear to God, it was like an old man looking at me. And he looks at me and he's like, I know who you are. And I was like, who am I? He's like, you're the dreamer. And I think I felt like that was such a wizened moment. It was kind of like from a child's mouth, from the lips of babes, that there's a magic that we have to rediscover, almost like the wounded inner child psychology piece of
chills.
it. You are? Yeah.
Feel it, yes. Oh, yes.
Right? That it's like that there is magic in that. And it's and maybe part of there's science in it too. I can get into the law of attraction, quantum physics rules, blah, blah, blah. There's scientific evidence that if we are able to harness our energy, we can make things happen in the material world. And we can talk more about that. But one of the things that I want to emphasize is that what Kristen was saying is that when we start to realize that play and pleasure and magic and rediscovering that inner child, that's all part of drawing to us what it is that we really want, right? That's a form of abundance. And then calling me, you're the dreamer, and it felt so like he meant it like a noun, like an archetype or something, I would embrace everyone or encourage everyone to embrace this notion of being the dreamer, right? That you can walk in your dreams and you can cherry pick. This is what I want for my life. That's what I want for my life. And it doesn't have to be pre-constructed by what your parents think, by the money myths that we talk about, right? To try to see beyond that, and when we talk about activating, the other chakras, when we think about, we can talk, I'm just going to mention a little bit, we're talking about limiting beliefs. In the third eye, for example, the shadow aspect is illusion, right? And we're talking about limiting beliefs in terms of you can only make money the hard way, right? Penny saved is a penny earned. Work hard, play hard, all of those myths, right? Well, that is in part because we have contracted or overexpended energy in the root. And that also communicates with the third eye, which is you only see that as being the truth. That's all you can see in your sphere, right? Because that's what you've been trained to see. So the shadow aspect of the third eye is illusion. And basically it's like if you are drawing a connect the dot thing, you connect the dots, you have a sense of what that shape is going to be before you even finish it. Now on the positive side, that could be wisdom, right? You're making informed decisions about what you predict might happen. On the negative side, you take that too far. You allow that to become a rigid aspect of your life to form a limiting belief. Now, everything you look at, you're going to assume is that shape. Even you're not going to allow for that last leg of the journey, right? That last dot, those last two dots connect. There's always the possibility that you don't know it's going to be the same shape, right? But once we start picking up evidence to support our negative beliefs, we stop seeing that possibility. We stop witnessing the variation. Right. And we need to be able to see that in order to believe that I don't have to live this way. Right. I'm actually more in charge of this than I thought I was. And
that's where we get caught up. We think that there's a certain way and those mindsets get stuck. And so that's what this program is all about, of starting to go in and tease those out and look at them, but then release them. And then bring in your power. What is your truth? And activating that in the way that you want to repurpose your chakras, your energy, so that you can move forward and attract the things that you want. Not the things that you don't want, that you are attracting, which is why you might want to join this program, to change those beliefs and to really activate your power. Step into it.
Yeah. And, I one of the things I wanted to mention was maybe some of the concrete things that they'll be getting in this course. So the course includes 21 guided meditations. And the guided meditations start with clearing and affirming. So similar to the meditation that you heard for our challenge, the challenge is a little bite of the larger course. So you get a clearing an affirming meditation. Then we have a meditation that focuses on strengthening and activating it. And then you receive a meditation that's focusing on manifesting. For each chakra, you also get a research article. You get a recorded discussion between Kristen and myself on the elements of that chakra. And you get a recorded lecture on the psychology of that chakra. So that's 21 guided meditations, 7 recorded audio discussions and lectures, and then 7 lectures on the psychology of each chakra. We've also done art tutorials and to show, like response pieces together to show you how you can process that information as well. And Kristen's come up through her influence of her shamanistic practices, rituals to help facilitate the manifestation of what you would like in each chakra. So those are some of the concrete things that you get out of it. Mm-hmm. We're also doing a live webinar just like this once a week for the 7 weeks as we drip the content. So we give it to you in bite-sized portions. So starting August 16th, we will do our first webinar, but we're going to drip the content starting August 9th. Mm-hmm. So that first week is Root, which you are now familiar with, and you'll be digesting, processing all of that, and then we come together and we discuss it on the 16th for the first time. Then we'll be dripping each chakra for 1 week after that, and we will touch base with you on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. to process and discuss what it is that has been coming up for you. And additionally, if you are a creative arts therapist or someone who's interested in continuing education, it is worth 14 continuing education contact hours. 7 of those are self-study and 7 of those are live contact hours. You just have to make sure you finish all the modules and you attend all the webinars.
And so what's really nice about this program, and as we went through it, we realized, well, a lot comes up.
Yeah,
a lot comes up because we're human. And these stories are the stories that have been, in a sense, kind of controlling us, causing our energy to go a certain way or manifest things in our life the way that they are. And so we wanted to create a supportive container. So we're going to have a Facebook group for everyone to connect with. And we're also going to have those live calls so that as things come up, the questions and the stories and the things that you're going to want support with, we offer that. So it's a community of people really moving through, working through each of the chakras, not only for the easy, fun stuff, but also for the stuff that comes up that's a little bit more challenging and difficult that needs to be removed before we can activate and call in what we want. So it's the necessary shadow work that we all have to do when we're doing this deep level of clearing, activating, and then manifesting. Mm-hmm. So it does become really fun. Most of it's really fun, but I'm going to be real. There's some moments where we were both teary-eyed, like, wow, there's stuff
more than teary-eyed.
Yeah.
Like, ah! Like ugly cry. Like, ah!
And you see us going through it. So we're going to be really, really real with you.
Yeah.
Because as we do the art tutorials and give you the exercises that we encourage you to do along with us, because these art exercises really help to integrate these pieces and help us understand what's really going on, because our psyche does talk to us through the unconscious when we pick up the art tools and begin to create with them. So you see us going through our process, and we support you in that process because we're all human and we're all looking to do this really good work to step up into our power. And so we create a really good space where you're not only doing the energy work, and I'm saying it like this because, you know, some people believe in that, some people don't. But we also have the psychology framework. We understand what's going on through the chakras from a psychotherapy point of view. Mm-hmm. So that you can really understand, okay, there's energy that's happening, but there's also a structure of how our minds and our bodies begin to work with and metabolize what's in our chakras. Mm-hmm. So we're really giving you a grounded, firm foundation to understand what's happening in your body. And then we also give you that power back to be able to tap into your resources so that you have your own wisdom coming up that's going to be guiding you as well. That's going to be the main energy, is going to be your intuition and your energy and your stories and your movement guiding through those chakras. And we're just creating that framework to support you in the energy, to support you with the psyche, and to give you that container that's really safe to be able to do this work, because it's important work to do if you want to step up into that next level of your power.
Mm-hmm. You know, this might be a little off the cuff, but I'm inspired to do something.
Do it.
Is it okay?
Yes, I love it.
I'm just going to grab my whiteboard.
All right. This is why I love working with her. It's like, great, we feel it in the moment. Bring it in.
Okay, so we had a meditation. We started out with a meditation, right? And we asked 2 questions. We said, what are my next steps, right? And then we asked a clarifying question.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like you to kind of follow along with me here and at home, or if you're watching this on the replay, you can do this as well. But basically, so we asked, what are my next steps and what's the clarification? So we're going to take that back a little bit, because when you said, what are my next steps, you have somewhere in you, whether it's in your consciousness or your unconscious, a vision of what it is that you really want, right? A vision of abundance, of financial abundance, or whatever abundance means to you. And we even worked with that in our challenge, right? So we know you have it. So on one side of your page, let's say you have a page, I'd like you to sort of write down where you are right now, or you could even draw it, whatever feels best. But I'm going to say, like, let's do a hypothetical person. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Let's say someone feels a little bit confused. Let's say they're unhappy in their job, unhappy at work. What else? What's another thing?
Stuck
Stuck
in the old ways, not sure how to get out of it.
Stuck in old patterns, maybe?
Yeah, stuck in old patterns.
Okay. Anything else?
Lethargic, apathetic.
Let's say lonely, maybe?
Lonely.
Or lonesome?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is where we feel like we are right now. And we're trying to get past that, right? We want to experience some real changes. So, and we have a vision of what that looks like. So on the other side, let's say what that might look like. You want to give me some idea?
Freedom.
Freedom's a good one.
Expansion.
Freedom, expansion,
Self-love.
self-love.
Manifesting is love all around.
Love all
'Cause
around.
That's what happens when you love yourself. It just
Love.
comes to you.
Love all around.
Magic.
Magic.
Synchronicity.
Uh-huh. I'll say money.
Money.
Yeah.
Manifestation of dreams.
Manifestation of dreams. Okay. So we have where we are right now, right? And we're all probably very familiar with where we feel like we are right now. Then we have where it is that we want to go, right? And now there's this gap in between, isn't there? And one of the things that we tend to do, that our mind and our ego tends to do, is say, this is where I am, that's where I want to be. And you start analyzing the gap in between. And the problem with that is you start to criticize yourself. You start to see yourself in comparison to that. And what happens is that generates a negative energy. So part of what's sort of the paradox of like law of attraction, or using your energy to attract this to you, it's not trying to push it out towards there. It's more trying to draw that to where you are right now. And that starts with embracing and being compassionate towards where you are right now. Okay. But a lot of times we see it as a journey, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because, you know, a journey is going to have a series of steps. So we tend to think linearly, but really the journey is almost more like an upward spiral. But for the purposes of this exercise, let's say we're going to draw a bridge between these two. Okay, we're going to connect them in some way. I'm going to draw 2 lines. So let's say, where would you say, our hypothetical person here, where would you say that person might be on this bridge?
I'd say they'd be right over here.
Right
just
over
because
here.
they're interested in coming here. I think that if you're on this webinar, then you are taking the steps to manifest this whole region over here. Your freedom, expansion, your self-love, your manifestation, your money.
Yeah. Okay. So so we're right here, and let's say more or less the person feels a bit stuck, but they want to be going in this direction. Okay. So now let's qualify this. On a scale of 1 to 10, how badly do you think this person wants to be here?
I think they want to be a 10. I mean, they're moving forward. They're taking the steps.
Okay, they want to be there really badly.
Yes, they want to be there.
Okay. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very capable and 1 being not capable, how capable do you think this person might feel that they can get there?
Ooh, now of course now I'm feeling all the energy. I'm feeling all of the blocks in the chakras that are keeping them, and like the old stories that are like wanting them to go backwards. But I feel that their soul wants to go forward. But that's the old crap that's in there.
Yeah.
Wow,
that's a hard one, right?
I feel all of that. Yeah.
So let's say in our hypothetical person, let's say they think like a 6 or a 7.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll say 6 or a 7. So now at this point, I want you to ask yourself. Right? Let's say you're in and around this area on your bridge, right? How, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most capable, 1 being not so capable, how capable do you think you are of making it here, where you want to be, where you really want to be, right? On your own. Thinking the way that you think now, doing the same thing that you've always done without being able to step outside of that pattern, right? That stuck pattern way of being, thinking, doing, seeing things. Okay. So this is where the meditation comes in. So now let's say we want to work with, this is an example of like some of the things that we might do together. So let's say you want to work with and part of it is that we want to source it from the inside. So this is a little bit of a cognitive exercise, but it's going to be sourced from internal resources. And this is about bridging the inner and the outer, right? This is about energy and manifesting it materially, and that it has to involve both body and mind and spirit. So we're sourcing our information from the inside and from spirit, and then we're going to make it material, which is going to help us put that into a cognitive frame, right? Action steps. So let's say person says, okay, well, I think it's a 6 or a 7. Okay, well, now let's go back to your meditation. What did you witness, right? Like, what did you see? Well, let's say someone saw, I'm just going to pull this out of the air, but like, let's say someone saw an image that reminded them of childhood, but they're not sure what that means in the context of what we're talking about. Well, maybe we talk a little bit more about it. Maybe you free associate, or you do a drawing and you have a dialogue with the drawing and you realize, oh, well, that person used to talk a lot about, achievement, or there was something, let's say that person did something in their business that you really admired. And all of a sudden you realize, oh, well, I think that, maybe they had a coach, or they had someone that helped them along the way, or they had a really brilliant business partner, right? So maybe part of the message is, get support, right? You need help. No one's an island. No one does this alone. I didn't start bringing in an extra $2,000 to $5,000 of passive income by myself. You know what I did? I sunk all of my savings, which was not, some might say, wise, considering I was a single mother and living below the poverty line. Sunk all of my savings into hiring 2 high-end coaches. One was in business, which is a lot of what I'm sharing with you right now, and the other was in intimacy and love. Because remember, you cannot put these different categories into different buckets. They are all in one bucket, right? So I was working on myself from the inside out. So we all need support. We can't do it alone, right? So let's say, okay, now if you had someone, why do you need that support? What do you think specifically? How would support help you, right? Maybe you might think of like, let's say someone says, well, I need someone to hold me accountable.
Yeah, and right? I think it comes from someone who also knows about this energy and is a step ahead.
Right. So an experience, so support from someone who's been there.
Yeah.
And who's now where you want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So someone who can hold you accountable, someone who's experienced. Right. Okay. And maybe someone who can inspire you.
Yeah.
Right. Keep you going. Now, I actually, with one of my clients, I'll offer the second piece, which is that one of the other reasons might be struggling maybe with focus, right? Because we're talking about obstacles too. What are the obstacles? Why is it a 7? Why isn't a 9 or a 10, right? Well, some of the obstacles might be focus, struggling with focus, and support would help with that. Knowing what to do, support would help with that. But what about energy? Like, what if you're feeling depleted, right? What if your day job just sucks the living daylights out of you? So there were 2 ways that we kind of approached that. Well, it could be, at first we kind of explored, is there any way that you can reinforce the boundaries between the energy you expend at work and the energy that you focus on yourself? So self-care is essential, right? Because what happens is, if it's your energy that's drawing abundance to you, then you have to feel good,
Mm-hmm.
If you feel exhausted and tired and whatever else, you're going to continue to attract circumstances that make you feel exhausted and tired where else. They're going to reflect that. But if you're taking care of yourself first and you're feeling good, then your circumstances will reflect that. So there's self-care. But one thing that my client brought up to me, and I thought was so beautiful, and that's why I want to share it with you today. She said, it's not so much the addition of some, or like the taking away of something, like taking away a responsibility or taking away the time I have to spend. Sometimes it's the addition of something that inspires my creativity or that actually gives me energy, right? So this concept that energy is not necessarily a glass that's full that you pour things out of until it's empty. It's also like it's a continuous kind of siphon in a way. So she said, well, I don't know that I necessarily need to reduce my hours at work, but maybe if I watched an inspirational video once a day, right? Or if I added in, like she was a painter and she was really she'd had it in her mind that she wanted to do acrylic pours. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's a method of painting. She wanted to learn it and she'd been delaying it for so long. She's like, maybe if I watch a video on acrylic pearls once a week, that will actually make me feel inspired to pursue the things I want to pursue. Because in her meditation, in her vision, her message was you can do your job, but don't let it stop you from pursuing your creative aspects. And that's what's ultimately going to bring in your abundance. So sometimes it's not taking something away. It's about giving yourself something. And self-care is one of them. And I think making sure that you're inspired is another one, right? So you also want to think about, I guess I'm sharing this with you because, whether you join our group or not, or take our course or not, don't do it alone. You can't do it alone.
Can't do it alone.
You can't, you cannot make significant changes in your life if you don't find the outlets or the inspiring support or a system or something that is going to help you shift the way that you think, the way that you perceive the world, the way that you interact with the world, and some way to help you source the internal and integrate it with the external. Because that's really what we're trying to do, is show you how to source your limitless power and authority and give it a channel, give it a system, give it a channel, give it a whole irrigation system, and just let it nourish your fields so that it, your products grow, your seeds grow, that the money comes into you. I saw a speech recently, this guy, he said that when you raise your energy, like, that people will show up. They'll be banging down your door. When you go into a room and you glowing because you're taking care of yourself and you're inspired on a daily basis and you just love what the heck you do, people are going to show up. They're going to be crawling up through your floorboards. Now, what happens is you might see a lot of people like that, but you don't think they have a lot of money. Well, part of it is they don't have a system in place for changing that into money. Because remember, money is just energy. And you're outputting energy, and people are drawn to that. You are doing a service just by being who you are, just by being inspiring, right? Because they don't want to leave your presence. Have you ever been in the presence of someone who inspires you? You never want to leave. You're sitting there, you're just by their side, and maybe they're yawning and looking at the clock and hoping you notice them looking at the clock, and they're like, nope, you're gonna have to kick me out. Because you just love being with them, right? Because they're being fed. And that is a service you are providing. Taking care of yourself, believe it or not, provides a service to someone else.
And that's what we're going to be offering you in our program, is a way to come into this inspiring nature of trusting your intuition, trusting yourself, and also being fed by the community and these exercises that we're going to be giving you, because we have been there, which is why we have put together this program, because these are our best kept secrets and tools that I wish someone had taught me years ago.
I know.
But I'm happy that I discovered them. And we've been putting our heads together and our best practices and tools together to begin to create a shortcut for you to start tapping into your power by releasing those old stories and getting into your alignment so that you can channel through your highest self, your fullest energy, and begin to achieve the things that you want.
Yes. I really hope that you will join us.
Yeah, we hope that you'll take those next steps to step into your power and think about what it is worth to you to be at that full 10, to be activating your power, attracting what you want, attracting in the magic, the money, the relationships that honor you, that self-love, so they can permeate out, and all those synchronicities. because it totally is worth it.
That is a good question. What is it worth it to you? What if you and you know what? Going back to our money maps, what kind of dollar sign would you put on it? If you wanted to if you can envision what it is that you wanted in the meditations that we did in this challenge, what's the dollar sign you would put on it? Right? And then ask yourself, what's it worth it to me? And then you might even ask yourself, why that number? I'm just going to leave it like that. Leave that question.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us for the challenge and for this webinar. We're so glad that you were with us. And we send you 1,000,001 blessings and hope to see you in the program.
Yay. Bye.
Bye.